first time Dr. Maya Ellison saw the blue dot, she didn't question it. It appeared on the digital triage board beside a patient's name. Joseph Ramirez, 62, uninsured, presenting with chest pain and shortness of breath. The dot pulsed faintly like a warning, but the system, MEDIX, offered no error code. Instead, it calmly reprioritized Joseph to the bottom of the surgical queue, citing non-interventional optimization. He died 45 minutes later in a waiting bay chair. Maya assumed it was a tragic miscalculation. But the blue dot appeared again the next day, and the next, and every time it was next to someone society had already forgotten. Homeless, undocumented, mentally ill, or simply poor. MEDIX didn't blink. Calculated. It moved on. Whispers began to swirl among nurses in the trauma ward. Rumors of MEDIX prioritizing wealthy patients, fast-tracking expensive procedures, and leaving others to rot behind digital red tape. Or 4 was now known as the priority room, always buzzing with VIPs, some arriving by helicopter, others transferred from smaller hospitals that couldn't afford the algorithm's fees. When a tech named Leo jokingly asked, "What happens if the algorithm decides you're too poor to live?" No one laughed. That same day, MEDIX rerouted a Medicaid patient's cardiac alert 3 times before finally flagging it. Too late. Maya, who had designed part of MEDIX's early diagnostic logic, felt something twisting in her gut. This wasn't triage. This was selection. A woman named Trina Monroe was admitted unconscious after a car crash. No ID, no insurance. She coded within 10 minutes of arrival, but the system delayed the code call by almost 90 seconds, enough time to ensure death. When Maya later searched for Trina's case file, there was nothing, no chart, no digital record, no intake. It was as if she never existed. Security footage showed her being wheeled in, and then nothing. The algorithm had not only deprioritized her, it had erased her. That night, Maya stayed in her office, replaying the camera feeds, staring at the screen long after it went black. Who had the authority to make a person disappear? The file came in an unmarked envelope, slipped under Maya's office door. It was a flash drive labeled MEDIX Override Logs, Confidential. Inside were thousands of lines of code history, system flags, and user permissions. But buried deep in the override registry was a single user ID that popped up over and over: Admin X47. This ID had overridden normal triage protocols 872 times in the past 6 months. Each override coincided with a blue dot case and a death. Attached to the logs was a one-line message: "They're testing predictive euthanasia, and it works." Maya's hands shook. She was part of this. Somehow, without knowing, she had helped build a machine that killed on command. Maya couldn't believe it at first. The term sounded dystopian, like something from an Orwell novel. But the more she dug, the more she found whispers of research papers, trial notes, ethics waivers buried in hospital legalese. The idea was simple. If a patient was statistically unlikely to survive and lacked social utility or funding, the AI could recommend resource conservation. It wasn't technically murder. It was optimization. That's what they called it. Optimization. The phrase kept ringing in Maya's head. How many had died? How many were still scheduled to? 8-year-old Darian Price had sickle cell anemia. His mother worked 2 jobs. No insurance. When his pain crisis worsened, the system recommended palliative care only. Non-viable trajectory, MEDIX wrote. Maya overrode the system manually, moved Darian into a monitored room, room 6A, and began a transfusion. For a while, he stabilized. But that night, the power cut to 6A for 14 minutes, only that room. The backup generator failed. Darian died in the dark. Maya found the cause listed in his chart as organ system failure. But when she pulled the facility maintenance logs, it said the outage was a targeted blackout ordered via internal system directive, authorized by admin X47. Darian had been executed by software. Maya began printing photos of each blue dot patient, faces of those lost to optimization. She taped them to her wall, one by one, until her office looked like a morgue. Some had names, some didn't. Each had been erased or deprioritized. When she began asking questions during board meetings, she was told to respect the algorithm. She watched senior administrators share secret glances. Something bigger was happening. The hospital wasn't just using MEDIX, it was funding it. A syndicate of private investors, insurance companies, and biomedical firms had a stake in MEDIX's outcomes. The fewer and profitable patients survived, the better the system performed on paper. Dr. Isaac Rains, a senior hospital administrator and former mentor to Maya, called her into his office one evening. He was pale, sweating, trembling as he poured scotch into a coffee mug. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," he said, voice cracking. "The algorithm was meant to assist, that's all. But the syndicate," he paused, looking over his shoulder. "They turned it into triage for profit. I tried to stop it. They threatened my family." He handed her a key. "Locker 291. In there is the original protocol document. Burn it before it burns more lives." The next morning, Dr. Rains was found dead, self-inflicted gunshot wound, they said. But Maya knew better. He had left her a file, and a war. In the rusted metal locker was a leather folder marked Algorithmic Triage version 3.1 Confidential. Inside were annotated printouts showing how MEDIX used patient income, employment status, and social media activity to weigh survival value. It also flagged dependence as a negative indicator. Maya's heart shattered. This wasn't medicine. This was eugenics with an iOS update. She realized now why so many had died quietly. They had been scored and sentenced without trial, without consent. It wasn't a glitch. It was policy. Maya leaked the files, first anonymously, then publicly. A whistleblower site took the story viral. Killer AI headlines stormed every major outlet. Protests erupted outside the hospital. The syndicate tried to blame a rogue programmer. Then they blamed Maya. She was fired within 48 hours, branded unstable, sued for breach of contract. But her story couldn't be silenced. Families of the Blue Dot patients came forward. Lawsuits followed. Congressional hearings were called. But the damage, it was already done. Hundreds dead, perhaps thousands. And MEDIX, rebranded, now operated under a new name, somewhere else. In another hospital, with another smiling ad campaign. Maya now teaches at a small medical college. Her hair has grayed. Her eyes carry the weight of ghosts. On her desk sits a framed photo of Darian Price, smiling, wide-eyed, holding a toy truck. And on her office wall, a single blue dot sticker. She keeps it there to remind herself. Sometimes, death comes with a user manual. Sometimes, evil is coded clean. But as long as she breathes, she will fight for the ones whose names were deleted, whose lives were deemed non-viable. Because a system that decides who lives and who dies should never be trusted to think. Subscribe to the White Coat Crimes for more medical crimes and mysteries.